When it comes to the end of fall time, there's pumpkins everywhere. They're a dime a dozen. One of the things you can do with your pumpkin is make pumpkin flour. Now, obviously, not many of you will probably have pumpkins in your basement at this time of the year, but there's probably one or two of you. And if you store it properly, you can get 3 or 4 months out of them. Here's some that we've had in our basement. We're going to make some pumpkin flour. We'll show you how to do it. It's very easily done. So all you want to do is you want to just basically, you want to take your pumpkin apart. Now, if it's been sitting in the basement for quite some time, since Halloween, and it's a little dry, that's fine. You've already started to dehydrate it in the basement. That's what we want. We want it to be dry. So we'll just split it open. And as you can see, some part of this pumpkin is going bad, so we'll cut those bad parts out, and it's still perfectly good. Just the rotten spots we want to get out of it. Get rid of that. Over here is a bad spot. Now, when you make pumpkin flour, you want to peel the pumpkin as well. And we've got a technique that we'll show you on that. First, you want to remove the seeds. Now, you can either roast the seeds in the oven and eat them as a treat, or you can actually make pumpkin seed flour out of them. It's the same procedure as the pumpkin flour. Now you see the stringy stuff, this doesn't bother me to use that as part of the flour base if there's anything left whenever we get the seeds out. Okay. We'll get the other one cleaned out here. Get a bad spot in that one there, we'll cut loose. Okay, now that we've got the pumpkins cleaned out, we want to peel them. And if you have a peeler like this, it works best to peel around the shape of the pumpkin, or you can cut around it with your knife. Or the best way we found is to cut it in little strips like you would a watermelon or cantaloupe. Flip it over, and then you take the peeler and peel the skin off of it. If you don't get it all off, it's not as big a deal, but you want to get as much off as possible. And that one's done. Same thing, as the smaller you make your slices, the easier it is to peel your pumpkin. And you'll just do that around the whole pumpkin. Now at the top and the bottom, it's very hard where the stem's at. I'll just take and cut a portion of that and then throw the rest in the compost bin, because that's very tough where that stem was, and along with the other parts that were discarded. Pumpkins also contain one of the highest level of vitamin A in your garden. It also contains vitamin C and vitamin E. It also is an antioxidant as well. So we'll get this final slice here peeled. And it works well with the small pieces like that. So now that we got them all peeled, we're going to take and put them in the food processor. Look at the food processor. Now with the food processor, you want to put in your shredder blade on top of there. And you want the pieces, with the purpose of that, you're going to put your pieces in there, and you want to be as small as possible so they dehydrate quicker. So we'll just go ahead and process these here. Now, as you can see, we've got small chunks there, and that's what we want. So I'm going to take and put them over in this bowl here so they don't get chopped to a pulp, because you don't want a pulp in them. You don't want water and runny, you just want small chunks so they dehydrate better. So let me finish the rest of this pumpkin here, and we'll get the dehydrator set up and go on that. Alright, now that we've got our pumpkin processed here, got it all in a nice bowl, we're going to get our dehydrator hooked up and get the stuff dehydrating, so we're going to make some pumpkin flour. Now we got our dehydrator set up here. We're going to put the pumpkin in the dehydrator. Now there's a couple of tricks to this. We have here an herb drying rack in it, which is just this plastic mesh circle here. That's going to go at the bottom. And the reason that's going to go at the bottom is because as these particles dry, they're going to lose moisture and they're going to get smaller, and some of them will fall through this racking. Well, I don't want them to fall through the bottom and then we have to clean it up later. So we're just going to put that at the bottom to catch any small particles that may fall through. Now with this being 8 racks, we should have more than enough space for this one pumpkin. So what we'll do is we're going to start loading the tray, and all it really consists of is just a layer of the pumpkin. And as you check on this, you'll notice it'll get smaller in size. And this will take about 24 hours, depending on how much pumpkin you have to dry and how big your chunks are. And that's why we put it through the food processor, to get it as small as possible, so it would dry as quick as possible, so we use less energy, it's more efficient, and it's easier to handle. So let's get this packed all the way to the edge so we maximize our space. And this dehydrator, the air comes, sucks down through the center and blows up to the sides. So it'll circulate the air through the whole racking quite nice. So we got that one full. Put another one on. So we're finishing up our last tray here. And like big pieces like this, if you see them stuck together, you want to pull them apart so they dry properly. Now I said we had the seeds that came out of here. We don't waste anything here at the garden. So what we're going to do with the seeds is we're going to make another shelf on top of this one. We have plenty left over. And we're going to dry the seeds and make pumpkin seed flour out of them. And all you want to do is the same procedure. Just want to spread them apart. Now some of them are going to fall through, and that's not a big deal. Just the slime and everything is not going to hurt, because it's all going to dry together. Once you've got all your trays filled with your pumpkin seed, you want to put it on your highest setting, turn it on, and it'll take about 24 hours for your pumpkin to dry. You want to check on it periodically. Now this only took about 12 hours to dry, which was a surprise to me, but the benefit is that we cut it in small pieces, and as you can see, it's really shriveled up. Now with the seeds being on top, I'm not that concerned with. We can process those as well. But as you can see, we packed it real tight and full earlier, and it's all dried up. Now, this takes a lot of pumpkin to get a lot of pumpkin flour. Typically, it'll take about 1.7 pounds of pumpkin to get 1/8 of a cup of pumpkin flour. So it does take quite a bit, but it's very rewarding. Now the best way I've found to make pumpkin flour is you want to get your coffee grinder. If you don't have a coffee grinder, your trusty old food processor will work also. So we just take and basically just scrape the little particles of pumpkin and fill the coffee grinder up, and as you can see, it keeps falling through the grate, which is fine, because we'll pick it up at least on the next one, or at the very bottom where we have that mesh screen at. So we'll put the seeds there, set that aside. Now you don't want to overfill your coffee grinder. That's the only disadvantage to this, but with the funnel it helps pack everything in better. So we'll just grind that up. As you can see, some of it has ground up, others hasn't. And it really depends on how fine of a powder you want. And it's going to take quite a bit of work to get it like the all-purpose flour that you would buy in the store. So I'm going to grind up just a little bit more and see if I can break down any more of those chunks. Okay. Get our jar here. And the pumpkin flour is going to be a little more on the chunky side unless you really have a powerful machine that can break down those hard particles. So let's finish doing the rest of these trays. Now as you can see at the bottom here, that mesh screen really helped keep everything from falling. You got little particles there, but the large pieces stayed put. So let me do the rest of this and we'll come back and I'll show you how to do the seeds as well. Now out of that big pumpkin, we've got this much pumpkin flour. Now the way you cook with this pumpkin flour, it's a 1-to-4 ratio. For example, if the recipe calls for 1 cup of all-purpose flour, you can use a 1/4 cup of the pumpkin flour and 3/4 cups of all-purpose flour. Now it's going to change your ingredients to an orange color, but that's okay, and it'll add a little pumpkin flavor as well. Now with the seeds here, it's a little different procedure when grinding the seeds into a pulp. The seeds naturally have oil in them, and you don't want to over grind them, otherwise the oils will release and it will make the seeds very sticky, which will speed up the time, it'll lessen the storage time on the seeds. And that's the pumpkin seed flour. Now you can do this with any type of squash, but recommended pumpkin's the best. Now the reason why we're putting in these canning jars and not putting them directly into our main canister is because when you grind it up it creates friction, and you want to cool the powder or the flour down to room temperature because the friction of the blade heats it up. And then after it's cooled for a little bit, you can go ahead and put it in your storage container. With the pumpkin seed flour, you want to just add a tablespoon to whatever you're cooking. It has a lot of fiber in it, it has iron in it. You can even sprinkle it on top of your salad to add a little more nutritional value to it. So that's as simple as it is to make pumpkin flour.
For more information, please visit thewisconsinvegetablegardener.com.